Hello, I'm Scott Breton and welcome back to the studio. So I'm pleased to announce that finally I have the new iteration of the Form Gesture Anatomy course skeleton kit that you can purchase. In fact, I have two versions. I have this version, which is in 4 pieces, where the arm, the shoulder girdle, the whole thing comes off like this. You can just pop that on and glue it in place. Same on the other side. And the skull just drops off like that. But the entire rib cage down to the base is all in one piece. I've redone how the support works, how this, you can see the stand that is built into this now, and I've changed the way that the supports on the legs and down the shins work. I've added some supports in with the shoulder girdle just to make it a little bit stronger. But it should still be quite clear what's actual bone and what is just a support material that sort of needs to be there, because once you put the clay on, it gets heavier. So that's the 4-part unit, and I'll show you the 6-part unit. And the reason that that one was done was so that it would save a little bit on shipping costs by being less bulky. So you can see this one, the legs are separate from the upper body here. So, and I've made it so that the stand also clips in. So just remember, they do clip together and they will stay together, but you will want to use super glue to hold them together, because even though the joints, I've made them as robust as I can, that's still where the vulnerability is. So yeah, they'll sit in place, and you can just squeeze a little bit of super glue in there and squish that down, make sure that sits down really well, and it'll stay in place. Just give it a minute or two holding it in place and it'll work. So same as before, the upper body is exactly the same. These units fit on just like that. You can glue them in place. So that's the 6-part unit, and as I've mentioned, that's just saving a little bit on shipping costs so that it packs up a little bit smaller. So here's the box that this 6-part one comes in, which is just that bit smaller than this one, which is the 4-part unit. So it's just a little bit bulkier, and you'll save about $12 US on shipping with the more compact version. Okay, so that's more or less what the model is. The only real difference, once you glue it in place, the only difference that you're really going to see between the 6 and the 4 is that there is this block, which I'll show you a little bit closer, where if you can look inside the pelvis there, you can see there's 2 little blocks here. So I've had to do that to allow for the pegs where this fits together, you see. So there you go, that's how it fits together. And once you start using the model, of course they're hidden by the volume that you build out here with your clay. So that's the new model. I'm very happy with it. I've increased the realism a little bit, increased the resolution of the model. It's still got the same basic reinforcings, and I've just learnt from the problems that I've had with the previous versions where things were fragile in certain places. I think this one is a lot more robust. I'm very happy with the quality of the prints. In fact, the 6-piece one, that manufacturer, I really quite like their surface finish. Both of them are fine, but I'm very happy with the surface finish on the 6-piece one. So how do we use this? So for those of you who haven't yet explored the Form Gesture Anatomy course or understood how this all works, this skeleton is intended to go with the Form Gesture Anatomy course, and this is the main page of it. You go to formgestureanatomy.com, and what it is, so the overall course is combining some drawing practices, which are these series of drills basically about drawing the figure in different ways, from blocking in through to form and gesture and sort of design elements through to rendering. So it's a course that I think is suitable for someone who's just beginning, but if you're a more experienced drawer and you're looking to fill those holes in your knowledge and give yourself some drills to deepen your understanding of all the different aspects of drawing, that's what this is for. And so I've taught this a lot of times in person in the class, but this is the same material that I teach in the class, but being converted to an online form. So there's the fundamentals of form, which is basically about how do you depict three-dimensional objects on a flat surface in drawing, and exercises to develop your skills in that. Super important, super powerful. Doesn't sound very fun, but honestly, it just, if you put the time into doing this, it just opens all sorts of doors for you. Of course, as I mentioned, the life drawing aspect, which ideally you do from the model, but there is some reference images that you can work from of a male and female figure, and that's something, and you can get plenty more of that type of thing online. There's lots of reference images that you can use to go through these drills. So, and then the final thing is what we're talking about with the skeleton here. So, is using clay, and colored clay just like this. So if you order it with me, I've made a list. So if you want to just source the plasticine or whatever clay you want to use locally, that's fine. And I've made a list of the colors that you will want if you want to work through the course, because the idea is you take your colored clay like this and you'll lay it onto the skeleton, building up the skeleton directly. And I'll just show you on the model. I've got a series of 3D models embedded in the course, and what I've done is I've divided up. It's a little bit like dividing the countries on a map. I'm trying to keep the colors separate from one another, so that's why I've used, you can see how the green is separated from green and purple is separated from purple, and the idea is that it makes it clearer for you to identify these major muscle groups. And so in order to fill in your skeleton with the same colors, there's specific volumes, and so if you order that kit from me, you'll receive 9 different colors, which are enough to do this in the same ratios and the same colors. And if you choose not to, there's a list of what those colors are and what volume you need in order to be able to do that. So that's there for you, whether you want to use the kit that I provide or just source it locally, because it is, the shipping costs. Again, the kit itself is $10 for the clay, but the shipping costs do make that a lot more expensive. So the next thing that I wanted to show you was that as you're going through and you're building up your course, so this is just going down to the table of contents, I'll go to lesson 1, and in lesson 1, in the écorché part, écorché just means flayed figure, and so if I go into there, you'll see the notes here, and each layer of the course has a 3D model. So each of the colors that you're adding has a 3D model here. So I'll just show you, this is this underlying volume of the inside of the body, and we need that to be able to build up the upper layers. So you can just take your model, rotate this around to say a front view, and fill in the clay onto your model, and you can rotate it around to get the side profile. You can notice how the shape comes out here, swells out with the belly, okay? And then as you work down through each of the different volumes, internal oblique here, I've grouped a series of the neck kind of volume together because there's a lot of detail there, and what this course is intended to do is not to give you every last muscle, but to give you a series of volumes that balance having too much information, too much detail, and not enough. So we want to get to the sort of the level of resolution that I would think that most people who are drawing the model, who are interested in artistic anatomy, this is the level of resolution that they're more interested in. They're not interested in every last little extensor muscle on your forearm. They're interested in the more general volumes of the extensors, the flexors, brachioradialis. So these kinds of separations rather than every last little muscle. And so that's why I'm connecting making these volumes here that you can build onto your model, but they're simplified. Okay, so why are we doing this at all? Why are we using a model like this to to learn about anatomy? Why can't we just go to some books? There's some great books that exist. So here's some of them, and I really recommend, in fact, that you get these books because they are wonderful books. So this one here by Elliot Goldfinger, it's a real classic, or this one by Paul Rocher. It's also a beautiful, it's a very old one, but it's a very beautiful illustrations, very nice proportions. Or you could go for something that's more kind of blocky and simplified, such as this classic small book by George Bridgman, Constructive Anatomy. Again, beautiful drawings, quite clear in a lot of ways. Or you could go to something more constructive again, like Godfrey Balmes. This is again, an excellent anatomy book. They're all excellent, and I would recommend you choose any of them to get started on. But the problem with working from a book is that you pick up your book and you're trying to understand how a certain muscle interacts with another muscle, and you're flipping between pages trying to think, okay, where does this, it comes from there, and then where does it get to? And because the body is a three-dimensional form, we have to integrate how these things go together. And so that's why people do écorché courses. And if you're in a place where you can get to a class and do a in-person écorché, I think that's a really great idea to do. And I do run them occasionally in Brisbane. If you're not in that sort of place and you're trying to study this stuff from out of textbooks, you know, I feel like the way to get an understanding of these things is to do it in 3 dimensions. And what I'm providing is a kind of set of training wheels to help you do that. So in this model, the reason that it's posed like it is not just because I thought it was a funky dance pose. It's because this pose gives us a straight leg and a bent leg, a straight arm and a bent arm. It gives us a contrapposto, which means that the hip, the weight is kind of slumped onto one hip with the shoulder tilted the other way and the head tilted the other way again. So that kind of pose, I've got one arm that's rolled over, one arm that's rolled upwards, so supinated versus pronated, and we've got one foot that is straight on the ground and one that is, the toe is pointed, as you can see here, right? So one pointed, one flat on the ground. So this provides a whole series of different aspects to think about, and it changes the shape and the apparent look of the muscles as you go through. And that is why I've made the model have this pose, and why I've stuck with it. I think it does work quite well as a pose to work on in terms of doing this. So as I mentioned, the course is intended to be a simplified version of things. It's not covering every last muscle. I've tried to give, so you could think of it as an introductory course that you could then go on and do a detailed écorché course, or perhaps the other way around. You've done a detailed écorché course and you want something that will provide you a reminder, something to actually get to take all of that detail that you learnt about and make it into more simplified forms. So just going through, I might go to lesson 4 here. What muscles of the lower leg? And so you can see at this point in the course, I've built up all of the torso and the thighs and the pelvis region, and then this particular lesson goes into the lower leg. Okay, so again, even here I'm simplifying things down a little bit, but I'm trying to keep it to the groups that we really use when we're drawing the model. So if you do decide that you want to go ahead and do this, if you haven't signed up for the course, you can pay $40 and just have this perpetually. I'll just keep updating it in years to come, and you can just keep access. Or you can just use it for a certain amount of time, pay $7 a month, and that you can do it that way. So this is what's available now. I've got the 4-part skeleton that I showed you first up. I've got the 6-part skeleton that I've got right here. And I've got the clay kit that you can order. So there you go. That's what we have available now. It's the what I currently have to hand is the first 10 samples of each one that have come in, and I'll be ordering more of each. But for those of you who have signed up for the to be notified when the kit is available, that's you're welcome to order that now. The other thing that I'll mention is that with the kit, with the skeleton, I do include just a very simplified sculpture tool. It's just I make it myself. I take a piece of dowel and shape a piece of dowel. It's based on a brand of sculpture tool made by Taranti. So it just has a sort of a rounded end and a sort of a tapering point, flattened point like this. If you've got your own sculpture tools, that's great. If you don't, that will sort of get you out of trouble. And I find them quite nice to work with, actually. It works quite well. So there you go. That is what's available now. And put in order if you'd like to get one. Thank you.